All right, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this meeting of the Senate Committee on Education for those who are here and those who may be in Las Vegas and whomever may be tuning in online. Welcome. Thank you for being here today. I am Senator Angie Taylor, and I'll chair the meeting. So let's start with our roll. Madam Secretary?
Senator Buck. Here. Senator Cruz Crawford. Here. Senator Donate. Here. Senator Nero Loop. Here. Senator Rogish. Here. Senator Titus. Chair Taylor.
Thank you so much. We do have a quorum, and please mark Senator Titus here when she arrives. Okay, we have a couple of presentations on today, kind of a combined, big one, kind of a combined, and so we're going to make our way through those. And what I will do is just go through a little bit of housekeeping. It's going to be repetitive to some of you, so just bear with us. Of course, as a reminder, please silence your electronic devices. If you would like to testify, please make sure you signed in at the table by the door, and then please give the committee secretaries your business card if you have one. And when testifying, should you come forward to testify here or in Las Vegas, please make sure and turn your microphone on and clearly state your name every time before you speak. And then spell your last name the first time you come up. That would be very helpful. And then when you're finished speaking, please make sure you turn that microphone off. Let's see, public comment will be taken. We take it every meeting. It will be at the end of the meeting. We will take public comment, and then you'll have 2 minutes for that. We'll take it here in person and take it in Vegas, kind of in person, and then also online. If you would like to call in and you're online, I'll give you that phone number. Please dial in to 888-475-4499, and the meeting ID for this meeting is 892-2996-0827. So if you'd like to join us and have public comment, that will be the number. I'm going to also make sure I repeat it once again. And then as you come forward to testify, again, you'll have 2 minutes. If you have more that you would like to share, we can take your written comments, pass them on to the secretary, and she will make sure every member of the committee has those comments to review as well. Let's see, and if you have a handout, we want to make sure that that's emailed in advance to the secretary so then we can get them, and you'll need to bring 10 copies at least for the public so they can follow along as well. And then this is mostly for us and some for you. We are a policy committee, so we will avoid getting into the finances. I know there's a big overlap sometimes, but we want to focus on the policy here and then let the financial committees do their work when it's time to consider that. And then finally, the committee members, we will be using our laptops to follow along. We have handouts and so on here. Please don't take that as a sign of inattention or of lack of respect. And finally, we want to make sure that everybody is fair. I'm fair in giving everyone an equal chance to have their comments heard and known, because we do want to hear from you. All right, so why don't we go ahead and get started. We're going to ask the Chancellor's Ad Hoc Committee on Public Safety to come forward. The Chancellor's here. Thank you, Chancellor Carlton. Here we are. Okay, I was going to say, I thought Eric was here. Okay, Chief James, excuse me, sir, Chief James, and then Chief Vasquez. All right, and do we have someone in Vegas? No, we don't. Okay, fantastic. Thank you. Please turn your mic on, Madam Chancellor, and start when you are ready.
All right, good afternoon. For the record, Patty Charlton, last name Charlton, Chancellor of the Nevada System of Higher Education, Chair Taylor, members of the committee. Thank you so much for the opportunity to present to you today. I am joined today by Chief Eric James of the UPD Northern Command and Chief Arnold Vasquez, UPD Southern Command. And so this presentation today is to really provide some context of following the devastating shooting that happened at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas on December 6th, we convened a Chancellor's Ad Hoc Public Safety Committee to look across our system at opportunities for us to be able to make improvements, policy, training, and other components. That committee is actually being proposed to become a permanent public safety council and would be co-chaired by the two chiefs. And so with that, really the best people to talk about public safety within our system and in support of our 110,000 plus students and our faculty and staff in the community really are the chiefs. And so with that, I'd like to turn it over to Chief Arnold Vasquez.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Chancellor Charlton. I appreciate that. For the record, my name is Arnold Vasquez. I serve as the Interim Chief of Police for University Police Department, Southern Command. Good afternoon, Chair Taylor and members of the committee. So as the Chancellor had mentioned, she referred to the tragic events on the campus of UNLV back in December of 2023, which essentially created the ad hoc Committee on Public Safety by the Chancellor. The committee's charge is to evaluate and prioritize opportunities for improvement in system-wide campus safety and emergency preparedness, with the expectations to include significant new investments in facility, technology, and training initiatives. The committee received support and engaged with a wide swath of stakeholders throughout the NSHE community in forming recommendations provided to the Chancellor. The committee was structured to include the following subcommittees, which you see on the slideshow, to include emergency communications, threat intelligence and management, financial models and budget requests, physical security, emergency management, training, law enforcement, public safety operations, and interagency partnerships. The following recommendations have been accepted or in the implementation phase of our process. Chief James will speak a little bit more to some of those, but I'll go ahead and get them started. In addition to the institutional efforts, a few of the notable committee initiatives include supplemental security that was granted and funding by the Interim Finance Committee. That funding was granted, and the request for support, supplemental support on-site staff security at the NSHE institutions in Southern Nevada. This allowed us to provide higher visibility within those campuses throughout the Southern Nevada region. That project has been completed at the end of last year, but it continues through the end of this school year. In addition, there's a 911 public safety answering point request for a congressional delegation to improve the 911 call handling system to be in line and more congruent with regional public safety partners. The status of that is ongoing. And that request is for the upcoming federal budget. With that, we'll go ahead and move to the next slide. The following recommendations of the Chancellor's Public Safety Council has been accepted and are in implementation. The Public Safety Council is established to review, evaluate, and as needed, make recommendations to the Chancellor to address safety and security matters across the system. The Public Safety Council will work to enhance the safety and security of all NSHE institutions by making recommendations to ensure safety standards, equitable resource distribution, and effective implementation of safety protocols. The Public Safety Council shall report to the Chancellor and shall be appointed in conformity with Title II, Chapter 1 of the Code to include representatives from each institution. The charge may also include other additional tasks, many of them which I'll go ahead and just quickly highlight now. As I mentioned, one of them would be to evaluate safety and security issues impacting the institutions regularly, including current practices, emerging concerns, and the effectiveness of implemented measures, and provide comprehensive reports and recommendations to the Chancellor. Actively seek leverage or recommend financial funding sources to include federal, state, local, and private grants to support and implement safety improvements across the institutions. In addition, to encourage all safety enhancements, including infrastructure improvements, training and protocols to be distributed equitably across the institutions so that campuses of all sizes and locations have access to necessary resources. And to encourage consistent safety training, education programs, and security protocols across the institutions, ensuring that each campus follows uniform safety standards. And finally, to support the Board of Regents Security Committee with regular reports supported by current research and related data on the charges outlined in the committee's mission. The following recommendations, I believe it's the next slide. No. Am I ahead? The following recommendations of mandatory safety language have been accepted and are also in implementation, various phases of implementation. One of them is the active assailant events. The committee recommended all institutions adopt a system-wide safety language addressing active assailant events, general emergency preparedness, and other pertinent safety information. In addition, general emergency preparedness. The goal on that is to expand on existing general safety presentations and explore other media platforms. We'd like to collaborate with system-wide institutions to ensure the continuity and regular updates of those plans. And finally, the standardization of system-wide safety language and emergency response guides. As a part of this effort, the standardized syllabi language was drafted and circulated through institution and faculty groups over the last semester. The status of that is it's currently in progress with a drafted syllabi language, briefing finalized and awaiting implementation. With that, I'll go ahead and turn it over to my counterpart, Chief James. Thank you.
Thank you. Eric James, University Police Department, Northern Command, JAMES. So following on what Arnold was talking about, one of the things that we're working on is a system-wide implementation of a website within NSHE's website, where if anyone has any questions specifically regarding their institution, they can click on their institution and it automatically takes them to their safety websites, as opposed to having to go to each individual website and find things. Working with Bentley at the system office has been fantastic, so he's very good at that. Some of the other recommendations that we're doing in process are crisis management team and senior leadership advanced training, so tabletop exercises, safety posters that are standardized throughout the institution that are going to be permanently put up in each classroom, and then system-wide threat assessment policy to best coordinate information sharing, gathering information to emerging and immediate threats, including the adoption of a system-wide threat case management software system, which I sat into one of the presentations today. As our TVTP grant continues to go through, we will have the ability to have a system-wide process where North and South can communicate with any possible threats that may be going on or imminent threats through the safety system and manage those threats accordingly. And some of the other additional research that we're still working on are a locking mechanism for our classrooms, right? So a system-wide, and it'll be configured. It may not be exactly the same at each institution because we are sensitive to know that each institution is different and the things that they need are different, and we understand that. But we are looking at other locking mechanisms specifically for classrooms and external locks for the buildings as well. An active assailant video currently being used by all institutions, and so we kind of use the same standardized video that came from the city of Houston years and years ago, and it works really well for us, but we're looking for something to maybe formalize it, institution-specific, and address campus layouts with more information. And again, these are challenging because we have so many institutions with so many different areas throughout the state of Nevada. A system-wide emergency notification system. Back that slide I just showed you with the big layout from NSHE, we're going to be able to put a banner going across the top of it saying there is an issue at X institution, this is what's going on, because one of the things that we heard was, well, we heard what was happening at UNLV, but no one else had information. And rightfully so, we understood that, and so what we're going to do is to work to, if you're here in Northern Nevada, we close campus, it feels like every other day during the winter time. And so you can go see, oh, they're closed for 2 hours, they're delayed, or whatever it might be. So that way everyone can kind of see those things. And then lastly is the emergency response plans to include preparedness and operations program management. Dr. Amanda Wins in Northern Command and Dr. Louise Harsey down in Southern Command are working together to make sure all of our plans are in one place so everyone can access those at a time of crisis, that they're all in one area as opposed to going, hey, do you have that? We can just click right to it and go to it. That is what we have for you. Does anyone have any questions?
Okay, thank you very much to both of the chiefs and to the chancellor. We do have a few questions, and so we will start with Senator Donante.
Thank you so much, Chair, and thank you, of course, Chancellor, to your team for coming today. I probably have way too many questions, but I'm going to let my colleagues go first. The one that I'm probably, there's going to be a lot of them, but the one that I'm most interested in is, you know, one of the frustrations that I had when I was a student at UNLV was, and things have changed, right? I think when I was in student government, we advocated for the changing their emergency phones because back then the golf carts could run them over, and then obviously we put the really expensive ones. I think in student government we partnered with UNLV Police, and it was what, $500,000. It was a lot. It was a lot of money that we had to expend to change those, and so I'm assuming now we're in a different conversation of making sure that all the schools have the same infrastructure in terms of emergency response. One of the policies that I have been very interested in is closing off campus and the infrastructure needed to develop an exterior so that we can limit at least nighttime access for who's coming into the universities or who's coming onto the college campus. especially for those that have residencies, right, where students are living in the residential units. Do you have an estimated amount of what those infrastructure needs would be to essentially develop security checkpoints or to close off parts of campus, at least during the nighttime? I don't know if you've gone through that process as part of your recommendations.
So thank you for that question, Senator Danyate. Just direct. Okay, thank you. That's a really good point that you've asked about the closing of campuses, because we are public entities, we're gathering places for the community, and there has been a significant amount of concerns just about some of the outside community coming in. And so we have not done a cost estimate. We have many, many points of access to each of our campuses across the state. And some of our institutions have multiple locations as well. And so I think it might be better to defer to the chiefs what they may be doing to, in the interim, review how access is controlled.
Thank you. I just want to remind you, please state your name for the record when you begin.
Sorry, Patty Charlton, Chancellor, Nevada System of Higher Education. Apologies.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Chair Taylor. So I didn't spell my name. I'm sorry. My name is Arnold Vasquez. I didn't spell it initially. Last name is Vasquez, Chief of Police. So to answer your question, Donate, from our particular standpoint in Southern Command, of course, all the campuses are open to the public, as the Chancellor had mentioned. There's various takes on how they want to manage access to the campuses and the certain buildings. From our standpoint, there has been some discussion about looking at various ways to limit access during hours of operation. There is one of our buildings in particular at UNLV, the library, that has what we feel is a very practical application that we might be able to apply to certain areas, such as the student union, maybe some of the other larger buildings where we get a lot of foot traffic in the evening hours. But from our standpoint, really it's going to be institution respective in terms of how the presidents want to approach that piece. And in terms of funding, we haven't really addressed that in its entirety.
Eric James for the record. The short answer is no. We are a public institution, all public institutions, which means that people can come onto campus 24/7, 365. However, we do have access controls on the buildings. And so access controls, specifically at some locations, they are done by timer, and so they turn on and off. WNC just installed them. TMCC is in process. We wrote a grant for them, so they're in the process right now of getting them for their main campus. And then UNR, as they continue to build buildings, all buildings come up with a perimeter access as well as camera systems within those.
Is there a follow-up, Senator?
I do have other questions, but just to close off on this point, that's not what I'm asking, though. I'm not asking, right, are we open campuses or not, right? I understand we're public universities, but for example, in comparison, right, I went to the University of Maryland, and after hours, right, students would have to go through security barriers in order to be able to enter campus after 9 p.m. And so I'm asking, has that policy been considered from the campus as to what it would take to stand something up so that you're limiting access in the off hours that could potentially jeopardize or impact your students? And so it's not about whether the president of the university or institution believes in that. It's more of, have you all taken the steps as NCHI to determine maybe we need some uniformity between all the campuses and what are the infrastructure costs that are going to take us to get to that point, right? So that there is no encounter where random people are coming onto campus because you're in the middle of town, right? And there's plenty of case uses, right? George Washington University, which is located in Washington, D.C., NYU, right? There are plenty of scenarios where we can take public institutions that have developed some sort of protocol, but it sounds like you haven't done that yet, if I'm correct.
So for the record, Patty Charlton, Chancellor of Nevada System of Higher Education, and Senator Nyate, no, at this time we have not considered that. It hasn't come forward through the interest of the committee members, which is a cross-representation of students, faculty, and each of the institutions. So that did not come up as a point of interest. The two chiefs do, however, look at best practices that are happening across the country as well. So we do thank you for that recommendation and that suggestion.
Okay, thank you. You're sitting back, Senator, so we'll move on and then come back around if we need to. Vice Chair, you have a question?
Thank you. Thank you very much, and thank you for being here. While it may not be popular up here, I like that we're an open institution, and I know that kids do come and go at different times. And so it does present a very different problem. One of my questions is there going to be some kind of a, when you do this within different buildings, whether it's north-south or whether it's one campus that has a brand-new building and not-so-new building, right? Is there going to be some consistency? So if I'm a student, somebody else is a student, it doesn't matter the age of the student. It matters that they're a student or a professor on campus or even a custodian or somebody like yourselves. Is there going to be some consistency with the locks or the doors so that if I'm in the education building and it works one way, and then I go over to the science building and now I panic because I don't know how to do it in the science building. So is there going to be some consistency there?
Eric James for record, yes. The way that the systems are designed right now, once an institution, so I'll use WNC as an example, they just retrofitted their buildings with perimeter security. All the buildings have the exact same key card access. That is an audit trail that goes to UNR, it'll be going to TMCC, and eventually out to GBC as well. Also to include our satellite campuses around northern Nevada.
Arnold Vasquez for the record. And to answer your question a little bit further, some of the access control, it is consistent across the campuses. However, there are different hierarchies, if you will. So, you know, of course, like for law enforcement, we would have unlimited access to all secured areas, but for students and faculty and staff, those would have different hierarchies, if you will.
Okay, thank you. Yes, and I understand that that hierarchy would have to exist. I was just thinking more if there was an emergency in one hall and you didn't necessarily go there all the time, or now you're in a different semester and you have a class there, you would know how to use those doors. And so that leads to my follow-up, Madam Chair, is how will, because there are so many students and professors, et cetera, on any given campus, especially UNR and UNLV, how will that training be done? Because I know when we put these locks on, it was a whole, you know, everybody had to go, oh, I don't have a key anymore.
Eric James for the record. When new employees come in, I'll just speak to make things easy, UNR, they get a wolf card. That wolf card gives them access to the places that they need to be. And so it's the same as their ID, it's the same as they scan for their wolf bucks, and it's all sort of the same thing. And I know that WNC issues a card. That card is good for all buildings, and then same thing at TMCC when it comes up. They're going to have sort of that same system as well.
Yeah, Arnold Vasquez for the record, yes, the same system.
Okay, thank you. That helps me understand the process. So I may have another question, but Chair, you may move on.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Senator Titus.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for being here today. These are important discussions. Safety is paramount to students learning when they're not afraid to be on campus. A couple questions specific to that kind of education during a crisis. And what happened in Las Vegas was horrendous. And I made a point in January of going and meeting with President Whitfield and really trying to understand and be on campus at UNLV to see what it was like having not been on campus before at UNLV. Certainly spent years at UNR. But it's important that we become educated on this. So question, locking mechanisms. Yes, it's locked, so you can't get in, but if there's a locking mechanism, you're not going to lock people in, right? You're just locking people out. So if they need to get out, can they get out?
Arnold Vasquez for the record. That's a great question. I think the answer is yes to both. I think that's where we encounter the issue with having locking mechanisms and where we want to secure particular areas. So that's part of what we have to figure out what's going to be the best system for each institution, and within that institution, certain buildings on campus.
So students, faculty will be able to get out if they need to.
Yeah. Yes. Much like if you picture an emergency exit for a fire.
Give us your name.
I'm sorry, Arnold Vasquez for the record again. To a fire escape or something to that effect, you're able to exit the building, but in terms of getting back into the building, that would be problematic.
Because statewide lockdowns makes me worried. Second, these are quick ones really. So one of the things that I was concerned about is that emergency notification when something happens. And while I was on campus, we called the chief of police and all those kind of things to see what happens when there is an emergency. Is there you have everybody's cell number, and you get, like, here in North, you have a snow day, everybody's alerted, there's a traffic accident, we get it on our phones. Is that the emergency notification mechanism you're talking about?
Eric James, for the record, yes. Excuse me. We use a system called Omni Alert, and basically, you go in, you put in that message, it goes to everyone's cell phone and email address. That data is driven from PeopleSoft, and then on the other side, the student population that it comes out of. And so Workday, PeopleSoft, put it all into one system, and then those every 30 to 45 days, the systems are checked against each other to see who was dropped, who was picked up, so then they're back in the system. So everyone has that. Yes, ma'am.
Final question, if I might. So also on this, the education, when an emergency happens, I'm a person who live out in rural areas. By the time somebody gets to help me, I'm dead. It's 30 minutes later type of thing. So I'm a CCW owner, and I'm wondering about this, the no guns on campus. And do you allow any of your educators, if they choose, to carry for self-defense?
Arnold Vasquez for the record. The answer to your question is no. That's approved at the president's level from each institution. They do consult, at least in Southern Command, with myself and make sure that we have a level of a background if that is going to be approved or considered for approval, but currently no.
Well, one of the things I would just add, thank you for that, I would just add that, what are you going to teach them, to hide or self-defense? So that's a comment.
Thank you, Senator. We're going to go in. Senator Cruz Crawford, question.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. A couple of questions. Thanks for addressing the door locks. That's my concern. So the doors are like this. You can go out of a classroom, but you can't come in. That makes sense. Oftentimes it's not, if it will happen, it's when, right? And so there's different ways that we look at emergency management. Our proactive measures, see something, say something, our reactive is sometimes our most important. How fast do we get there, and how fast do we intervene? And then obviously, after crisis. I'm a principal in elementary school, so it's not open to the public. So I have that. As soon as someone looks like they're not supposed to be there, they don't belong there, they bring in the heavy hitter, me, to dismiss them off of a campus. But we don't have that luxury, and I do believe higher ed should be open to the general public. That is my belief. But one of the biggest things we can battle during a time of crisis is our cameras to locate. And I know cameras have been a consistent discussion. So I know as a regent, we were getting these updates. Can I know where we are now in our camera system? Because we know when we go live, we need to be able to know where the incident is occurring and who is involved in that incident. So if I can get an update on the cameras, and then I'll add this so that there's only just a response together is, have we looked into the emergency badges? I know in CCSD we have the 3 clicks, shut down, additional clicks, fire is alerted, and it tells you exactly where the area is. So my question is camera and emergency badges, and that's it, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Eric James for the record. So our camera systems, as everything comes online, new buildings come online, there are cameras. We use a system called a Vigilon, and it is a real-time system that you can look up at any point. Other institutions do have other camera systems, yes. And so I know at UNR we did about a $1.3 million retrofit about 3 years ago. It was about a 9-month process to retrofit it all. And that has really changed how we can, it assists us in solving crime, because we can actually, it's not a big green blob anymore. It's a person, we can see it, not because our systems are so old. The second question was about the badges. The badges work fantastic for a school district and for a K through 12 because they're controlled populations within that. They do not work well at university institution systems where people are coming and going, as you've said. There's the constant coming and going. And with the amount of LOA instructors that constantly come and go, the ability for anyone to issue these out and get them back would be extremely challenging. And then with the size of the institutions, again, if you're talking about a school, it's great. But you're talking about places with 5, 6, up to 100 buildings, that's really large. It just doesn't play out to us well when we have populations of adults 18 or older, where they can call 911 on their cell phones and get us there a lot faster than hitting that.
If I could just follow up, Patty Charlton for the record. And so Senator Cruz Crawford, one of the things that we can get for you is the status of each of our institutions' camera installation. I know, for example, President Dalpy is here. He's been making some significant investments, as you heard from Chief James, also just added emergency call boxes throughout the campus. So each campus is at a little different place, either be it the cameras or their call boxes, access controls. And so while not a money committee, I understand that, Chair Taylor, we do have a request as a number one priority for higher education so that we can implement additional safeguards and to ensure that each of our campuses has what is necessary given the uniqueness of each location.
Chief, did you want to add to that?
Yes, thank you, Chair Taylor. Senator Cruz Crawford, Arnold Vasquez for the record. Just to add one thing to that as well, we do have coming online LPR technology, in which we're starting with the UNLV campus. LPR technology is license plate reader technology, which if there's a threat, a known threat to any law enforcement within a specific area, we can have a vehicle tagged, and if it's coming onto campus or that vehicle is spotted coming onto campus, we would get an automatic hit, not only with our department, but with the neighboring law enforcement agencies, so we can know that that particular threat is arriving to our campus.
Thank you so much. I'm going to add a couple of questions myself just while you're here. My colleagues hit on a couple of these. I just want to go a little further. Help me understand about door locks. Are they open during the day, and then is there a certain timing, a certain time per day that you lock them, or how does that work?
Eric James for the record. It depends. And so the external doors to all the campuses all have, generally speaking, different scheduled systems. And so that's controlled through facilities maintenance. And the dean or the chair says, I want this open at 8 and I want it to lock at 10, and then that's what happens. On the other side of it, within the classrooms, at UNR, they have 144 door locks currently in place that when the instructor turns that, it allows people to leave, but does not allow anyone to get in. So they follow all OSHA and fire code that are up. And any new locks that are going to be coming online, all would follow code that would allow people to leave because we can't stop them, they're adults. But when the door shuts, it locks and remains locked until it's unlocked.
Thank you, Chief. Go ahead.
Chair Taylor, if I can add one thing, Arnold Vasquez for the record. In addition, UNLV is currently exploring in a pilot program the ability to lock doors and with a single motion movement. So for instance, like a button where you can actually hit it from the inside, this button, and then it would automatically lock that door. So you wouldn't have to manipulate keys or anything to that effect. That's on a pilot program at this point. If it looks like it's going to be something more sustainable, the university is going to explore that further.
Thank you, Chief. That's good. That's good news. I love the sound of that. Just another follow-up. Cameras, are they in inner building, out of building, both in classrooms? Please, Madam Chancellor.
Yes. For the record, Patty Charlton, Chancellor, Nevada System of Higher Education. Chair Taylor, yes, both, to all of the above. Typically in hallways where people are coming in and accessing different locations, but also coming onto the campus, exterior to the buildings as well. So we have them on both inside and out.
Classrooms?
I'm going to let the chiefs answer those.
Eric James for the record. To answer your question, there's Zoom, and so every classroom does have a camera in it, but there's no camera monitoring the classroom, if that answers your question.
Arnold Vasquez for the record. In terms of Southern institutions, there are, to my knowledge, no cameras within the classrooms. There are primary thorough points in the hallways and so forth, and entrance exit points, but not within the classrooms at this moment.
Certainly, I know that's an academic freedom situation. I'm certainly aware of that. Any other questions from the committee? Yes, Senator Rogich.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Are you interested in using drones at all to patrol the perimeter or for other security purposes?
Eric James for the record. Funny you should ask that. We just stood up a drone program. Now, it's not we only deploy them when it's needed. We don't use it as to fly around the perimeter and look. But we have those right now. We have operators. We have 2 separate drones that are out on patrol. At any one given time, they can toss one up and see what's going on. But what we don't want to give people the idea that we're spying on them by having a drone. And so we only put it up, and there's actual reason for us to put it up, a call for service or something.
And how successful has that been so far?
Eric James for record, very. In fact, it's not only for us. As you all know, Washoe County, Reno, Sparks, we're not huge. We're not metro. We don't have 6,500 officers anywhere. So we'll have to work really closely together. So our drone has actually been utilized by Reno and Washoe County to assist them in calls for service where they needed a drone.
Okay, thank you. You're good, Senator? Okay, Vice Chair wants to make a comment, and then we'll go to Senator Donate.
I just want to make a comment on the day of the shooting, the way that everyone came together and did that was remarkable. And so I want to thank, all of you, because you're all involved, whether you're there or not. And, the center that former Speaker Buckley runs, the UNLV campus Metro, everybody did exactly the right thing. And it was absolutely amazing to me, just knowing from the outside. So thank you.
Well said, Vice Chair.
For the record, Patty Charlton, Chancellor. Senator Loop, I have to tell you, the Resiliency Center was incredible. The fact that they could stand up in 10 minutes and be able to provide shelter to those that needed it. It was a reunification location as well, but the counseling was absolutely astonishing, the quality, and so we were very, very grateful for the Resiliency Center.
Thank you very much. As I have a granddaughter on the UNLV campus currently, and had notifications and what have you, and the system is working very nicely.
Thank you so much, Madam Vice Chair. Senator Donate?
Thank you, Chair. and Thank you for letting me go for a second round. This happened in my district, so that's why I have the list of questions. So the next list of questions that I had was, so I was one of the students that was participants of drafting the UNLV silent video, right? The training video of Run, Hide, Fight. And one of the pushbacks that we received back, this was, back in 2018, we had asked UNLV administration, different administration, but we had asked them if they could require that every student to take that training program, and their response was no, because this is ultimately up to the faculty if they want to show the videos to train the students. Obviously, now we are in a different time. You have mentioned that you are looking or interested in doing active or silent videos, maybe for different scenarios and different campuses. And so I guess my question is, one, that's going to cost money to do that. And then number two, just because we produce the videos doesn't mean that we're not educating the students as to how to prepare for this. And so is NC going to be producing a policy that every student has to at least do this, or that faculty are being trained at least to educate students as to how to respond to a scenario? Because there's a lot of faculty that are being educated onto what to do in these protocols, and obviously we need to make sure that students understand what to do in those scenarios. So,
For the record, Patty Charlton, Senator Donate, thank you for that. Yes, I do believe that the policy recommendations will be coming forward to the Board of Regents. I will say one of the benefits has really been having on this ad hoc Public Safety Council faculty and students, because as them being a part of this process, they recognize, we all, and I think as Senator Cruz Crawford said, it's not if, it's when. And so we need to ensure that everyone has all of the information that they need necessary to be able to respond, however that is. And so I do anticipate that those policy recommendations will be coming through to our Security Committee of the Board of Regents.
can I do another follow-up? Thank you. The other thing that I wanted to ask about, obviously, I think this is more infrastructure needs. There's obviously considerations for lighting, et cetera, lighting improvements, campus improvements, safety improvements. What I would like to see is a breakdown for each campus. I don't know if you already have that or if you've already provided that to the finance folks, but I would like to see a breakdown of, for this campus, right, we need these enhancements. We need to upgrade these security systems. We need to install these many cameras of what we have identified. I think that, I understand that you have to go to the Board of Regents, but we're in session right now, right? This is a moment to start asking for us to respond in some way. The last thing that I wanted to ask about, one of the concerns that I heard about during the shooting scenario, so I had friends that worked in the dean's office in the same floor of BEH, right? There was some consideration of how staff are being informed of such decision making. I think you kind of touched point on that in terms of crisis management information systems. But one of the concerns that came up with was in certain scenarios, and maybe this is more of an entry policy, but that faculty were not taking the alert serious, and they were refusing to let students know about the scenario that was happening while they were taking exams. And so is the testing policy going to be reflected as to how to educate providers for when a scenario like this occurs and how we should respond to? Because the breakdown of communication that existed was faculty refusing to let the students know because they were in the middle of testing. So I don't know if that's something that you guys have talked about in terms of a response.
Senator Doniate, for the record, Patty Charlton, Chancellor. So first, let me answer that last question, because that is, to be honest, I have no words, because that's the first I've heard of that. There should never, ever be a situation where a test is put over the safety of an individual. So we will definitely be working, looking into that further, because I know any of our presidents would be appalled, and that would not be acceptable. On the other point on infrastructure funding, yes, we do have a breakdown of our request. Our request actually was quite significant. It was $50 million roughly, just for infrastructure. And then we had another request for staffing as well, because this is so very, very important. We recognize that resources may be limited, and that I promise we will be back biennium after biennium if we are not able to meet all of the needs. But I also want to give a huge shout out to the presidents of each of the institutions. They have prioritized public safety from day. They always take a priority of this, but significantly since December 6th, always recognizing that could have very easily have been them, but also looking at ways that they can either upgrade or update or use new technology. There is so much that is possible in this space with technology, with different resources, and quite frankly, we do learn from other unfortunate instances that happen across the country. So our presidents have really stepped up, and public safety is a #1 priority for all of them as well.
Okay, I think that completes all of our questions. Thank you so much for coming to share the information. As you know, for obvious reasons, safety is elevated for all of us, and I just want to concur with the vice chair. And there's nothing but incredible pride in how we responded. And it was noticed in other parts of the country. So thank you so much. All right. Okay, that closes that hearing on INCHI safety on the ad hoc committee on public safety. And now we will hear a presentation on school safety measures. These are for some of our K-12, our school districts, including current safety infrastructures and protocols. We do have several in the room. Please let's come on forward. For those who are here, please come on forward. We should have C.J. Anderson from Elko, who is here, Tim Logan from Lyon. Russell Klein is going to be on Zoom, I believe. And Henry Buckeye will be in Las Vegas. So if you're there in Las Vegas, please come forward, Chief. And then we have Mr. Searcy from Washoe County School District. He's the COO. And if there's anyone else who's here for that, come on forward.
I am Tim Logan from Lyon County School District, and CJ Anderson just stepped out from Elko, so hopefully he'll be back in. I'm going to go ahead and start with Lyon County School District presentation, and I have a PowerPoint that you can kind of follow along with. I've been in this job for about 25 years in Lyon County, from a teacher all the way to superintendent. We have 18 different schools in 5 different areas. They include, and I just want to give you that picture so you understand the ruralness of what you're dealing with. We're not UNR. We're small schools. We have Fernley and Dayton, Silver Springs, Yerington, and Smith Valley. So some schools ranging from 200 to 1,400. Sorry. It used to be a good day in education. You were really, truly educating, and nowadays a good day in education is all those kids that came to school return home safely, and that's a good day for a superintendent, that you know that you had a good day. I'm going to kind of break these into small little chunks. We were just kind of asked to speak about what we're doing in Lyon County specifically. Cybersecurity, almost all fights and misbehaviors and threats start online. That's kind of just the reality of where we are with kids. One thing that we use is what's called the BARC system, and this basically is a parental control, but we also use it as a school district to monitor the going-ons of the things that kids are writing. So it will capture if they write bomb or if they write swear words or anything pornography. It captures those and will send alerts to the administrators, and that allows us to monitor what's going on with the kids and hopefully head those off before they become a bigger issue. Parents can upgrade and pay for that as well, so they can monitor their own kids' activities online, but we do use it as a school to help with our cybersecurity. We also use Safe Voice. That's obviously a state-run thing, but it has been a huge, it's a pain at times because I've seen kids order pizza or try to through Safe Voice, but I've also seen them, obviously we're protecting kids from suicides or threats, so I will take the bad in order to get the good out of that. This is more the cybersecurity. It's been about 13 years ago. We had got hit by a ransomware. It was the first time I learned about Bitcoins and all those items, but we do now use what's called Huntress system. It's basically an antivirus kind of system, and that helps us to find those attackers' footprints and stop them before they get too far. And we've also ramped up our backup system, which was part of the problem we had back then. Communication. One thing that we use in communication is what's called audio enhancement. It's a little teardrop device that all the teachers use. It is attached to a camera system in our classrooms. So it's also audio enhancement. So they use it for a speaker system so that it helps all kids be able to hear the teacher clearly. But in a case of emergency, for whatever it is, it could be a fight that occurred or a medical emergency, they literally can push and hold the button. It will open up the lens on that camera in that room, and the office is immediately notified. It will pop up on the administrators with a picture of the room at that moment. They could click on a link and get live footage at that moment. Some of our school resources officers do have access to that. If I were to say something that we need to work on a little better is making sure they do have access to it all the time, so that they see what's going on when that emergency button's hit. Perimeter hardening is something that we have been working on. I do want to point out, and it's probably hard to see, the one on the left is more of a prison, and the one on the right is more cast iron, nicer looking fencing. We really struggle with not having our schools look like prisons. So we want them secure. We want the perimeters to be secure, but we don't need the Constantine wire going on them and stuff like that. I am a firm believer that in elementary, threats come from without. It's usually adults wanting to come in and harm children. In the secondary level, most of your threats are from within. And so we need to have those kind of systems where we're building relationships with kids, being able to have mental health for the secondary more. But that's kind of my belief. But we do need fencing, and that's a big part of what we're doing in Lyon County. Single points of entry. All of our elementary and middle schools have modified points, single points of entry. Again, we're trying to block from the outside. High school, before COVID hit, there was legislative money, and we did get all the middle school and elementary before it got pulled back at the COVID. But secondary, we have been approved by our board to start entering into modified single point of entries so that we can at least funnel all our visitors into one location. In rural counties, it's really hard. I'll speak to Smith Valley. It's farmland around it, so it gets kind of hard to keep all access points secure. But that is something that we are clear by our board to be able to start working towards on the high schools, get that modified single points of entries. Window security film. Unfortunately, we had a middle school child who got upset, ran out of the classroom and came down and tried to kick the door open and literally kicked his foot through the glass, and it was pretty severe. Since then, not only for security reasons, but we have had all our offices and our main entries with this window. It is not bulletproof, despite what people like to think. It just slows a perpetrator down so that they get tired and they'll go somewhere else to try to cause harm. One of the main things you try to do with school safety is slow down the damage that could be done until law enforcement's able to get there. And so this is one of those things that we put on all our main entries. Again, we have a multiple experience. We had a dad that tried to get was upset, and we locked the doors and literally was kicking the glass open. And so this is something that we have put in all our main entries. Cameras inside and out, can't say enough about them. They are now 4K, 8 megapixels. It used to be really hard to be able to detect anything, but nowadays we have the high resolution and the audio that goes with it, and so much crime reduction has come because of this, as well as it's just a deterrent. We have some on our schools that just make a loud noise and are beeping when you're in camera view, and that is a deterrent for people coming up thinking they're going to do criminal activity. Special ed room, by law, we do have all our special education rooms with 24-hour video, which we love because you have many nonverbal students, and that footage is vital for transparency there. Mental health is something that I'm hoping you're hearing a lot of this legislative session. We have a great need. One thing that we use, and it's just starting to get there, is what's called Hazel Health in Lyon County. It's really meant for quick medical uses for students, but they are starting to dabble with a mental health care with Hazel Health. Our mental health things that I would encourage, one is school counselors are vital. I think our ratio right now is 1 to 250, and I bet you we push that if not more. So we do need our school counselors. Social workers, again, that was something that was passed, and we love our social workers. School resource officers, coordinators, and then one of our big thing is knowing every student. It's just vital. School resource officers. We went from 3 to 5 in our district, and there is a major need for school resource officers. You can see them kind of playing basketball on the right. It's about relationship building so that they know they have a trusted adult when they do have big incidences that come up. We do have a dog that can detect weapons as well as drugs, and we regularly use that canine. And then one of our things, we're 16 out of the 18 districts, so minus Washoe and Clark, use what's called Pull Pack. Jeff Kay is familiar with all of us, and he is one that helps us do interagency trainings and preparedness, helping us write our emergency operation plans, and does on-site evaluations every couple of years to help us to know what we need to do to better our buildings. And these are my last 2 slides, basically. And I know you're not a fiscal part, but it would be a great day when our schools can get all the money they need and the Air Force has to hold a bake sale to buy a bomber. We do need resources. And this is kind of, I guess, my ask if I was going to walk away. We need support with our school resource officers. Single point of entries are probably for most schools an issue. Mental health professionals, we still need those. And then just a constant upping of our technology for cameras and audio enhancement for our Lyon County. I don't know if you have questions for me directly or you want to go to another district, however you want to do that.
Thank you, Superintendent Logan. What I'd like to do is have all the presentations,
Okay.
and then we'll do questions at the end, so we can just kind of keep a flow going, if you would. So, committee, if you have questions, just go ahead and jot them down, and we'll get to them all.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Nathaniel Watt, Director of Government Relations for the Clark County School District. For the record, I am just here to drive. I will pass it down to Chief Blackeye and our Director of School Safety and Emergency Management, Mr. Beasley, in Las Vegas.
Hello. Good afternoon. I'm Chief Blackeye with the Clark County School District Police Department. With me to my right is Director Jay Beasley with the CCSD's Department of School Safety. Together we'll be presenting portions of the Clark County School District's comprehensive school safety plan. Similar to what we've just heard, the plan is completed each year, revised and updated by the Department of School Safety. It aligns through organizational structure and policy, those roles whose outcomes directly impact school safety. The plan has 3 major components that are interconnected, interrelated, and guide all principles, including school climate, physical safety, and student behavior. The plan implements multiple layers of safety initiatives, technologies, procedures, and policies across various departments and outside agencies, all to address the multiple and compounding factors found to be associated with school violence. The items covered today will be general due to the sensitive nature of the topics and the obvious need to protect some of the information. I feel it's important first to highlight the school safety assessments conducted each year by our emergency management coordinators. The information gained from the assessments combined with the best practices in large urban school districts helps guide CCSD to ensure school safety is continually improving in our district. One major physical security initiative, and we just heard similar in, I believe, Lyon County, CCSD has been installing fencing. What started as a means to secure our portable classrooms became a district-wide effort to fence all properties. Perimeter school fencing installation is currently ongoing, and the impact to safety has had an immediate impact. We utilize security cameras to monitor and record activity in and around our campuses. In CCSD, we have over 23,000 cameras on one system. We also have cameras in our special ed classrooms. We also have 250,000 motion detectors across the district. And I noticed in the announcement for this meeting, an example was for bus cameras. We do have cameras in our school buses. Next is our single point of entry. Through procedure, physical barriers, and technology, schools are being modified to better control traffic flow to a single point of entry in our schools. The use of technology is a huge factor in the success of this security measure. We utilize Infinite Campus and IdentiKid technologies to assist in vetting those entering our schools each and every day. Cell phone pouches, hot topic. Our schools now utilize signal blocking cell phone pouches. They're non-locking. This measure greatly improves classroom management and reduces classroom disruptions. We have instant alert buttons. This project began several years ago and is now a standard security product that we provide to all of our staff members. Now, wherever they're at, whatever they're doing, they can instantly alert staff and law enforcement of an emergency situation or an event. The alert received at our schools and our police dispatch center pinpoints the exact location where the device was activated, so responders can quickly respond to the location of the incident and provide aid or assistance. All 42,000 staff members in CCSD are responsible for the safety of our students. However, campus security monitors are key to mitigating student behavior issues in CCSD. We have over 600 plus campus security monitors throughout the school district at this present time. Director Beasley and myself with the school police department provide initial and ongoing training to our campus security monitors to ensure a consistent response to issues occurring on our campuses. We've implemented a random search program, which began about 4 years ago after officers recovered over 50 firearms from schools in Clark County. Currently, 4 schools are randomly selected each week to receive either an arrival search or a classroom search. Weapon detection systems are utilized to screen students in this process. We have firearm detection canines that conduct classroom sniff throughout the school year. Last year, our canines conducted over 1,200 classroom sniffs throughout CCSD. With this program, up to 4 classrooms throughout the district are randomly selected each day. Our canines arrive and sniff the air in the rooms. We have a motor unit to address traffic issues around our schools throughout the district, and our campus and patrol units serve the district through presence and response to incidents occurring throughout the school day. We are highly involved in the School Violence Initiative that began in 2012. As such, we staff the Southern Nevada Counterterrorism Center with a police dispatcher to provide live information of incidents occurring in and around our school district with local and federal partners, ensuring that they have real-time information of incidents occurring throughout the day. We have a 24-hour police dispatch center. It is truly unique since it is a hub of all emergency communication in the district. We communicate daily with our 400 sites to address all types of incidents, issues, and emergencies. We monitor cameras when incidents occur. We receive all fire alarm activations. We receive all sensor alarm activations, incident alert button activations, safe voice alerts, Go Guardian alerts. They manage all police activity occurring in and around our campuses throughout the school day. On average, our dispatch center receives over 120,000 calls for service each year. Additionally, the school police unified radio system is managed by our dispatch center. Each administrator has the ability on their school radio system to speak directly to a school police dispatcher during an emergency. Emergency management, headed by Tony Barnes, our emergency manager. She has 12 emergency management coordinators. They are in the field each day providing training and assistance to our staff and administrators with safety procedures during and after events. They also are responsible for conducting school safety assessments. Last year, our emergency manager was responsible for the long overdue updated process for our standard response protocol. I can't go into too much detail about that. However, the response protocol is consistent with best practices in large urban school districts throughout the country. Additionally, we have a multi-tiered system of support, threat assessment and crisis response, mental health support, various members, social emotional learning, tabletops conducted throughout the year. School staff training regarding all of our safety practices and protocols can occur yearly and when new staff come on board. And these are all included in our comprehensive school safety plan. And that concludes my presentation.
And thank you, Madam Chair, and Mr. Chief Black Eye will be available for questions at the end.
Okay, thank you very much, Chief. We'll just have you hold for a moment while we hear from the other couple of districts, and then we'll fire questions your way. Who will be next? You're up here first, Mr. Searcy, so we'll go with you. And plus, I know your name, so.
Thank you, Chair. Members of the committee, my name is Adam Searcy. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for the Washoe County School District. I've heard many wonderful examples from our peer school districts. I will try to highlight some of the work that the Washoe County School District's doing that's maybe similar, different, and unique, particularly from kind of a facility standpoint. Of course, law enforcement, multi-tiered systems of support, mental health professionals also are very important aspects of school safety and security at the Washoe County School District. But I wanted to highlight, starting chronologically, kind of a couple of decades back when the Washoe County School District initiated what we refer to as the Safe and Healthy Schools Commission. This is an advisory committee to the Board of Trustees that meets in a public forum monthly for literally decades now, consisting of parents, students, mental health professionals, elected officials, law enforcement professionals, who meet and discuss the full breadth of issues and opportunities facing our school district and make recommendations to the board. It's been an invaluable resource over the years. And it was really in the early 2000s that we began with many of these similar best practices. School perimeter fencing, single points of entry, CCTV camera integrations into our schools, these physical brick and mortar components that help make our schools more safe and more secure. Plugging diligently away at that throughout the early 2000s, leading up to what many of you are familiar with, and the Washoe County Sales Tax Initiative of 2016, known as WC1, infused a significant amount of capital funding into our program, allowing us really to accelerate. You know, when we're trying to retrofit hundreds of schools with these types of major facility upgrades, it does take time and significant resources, and we've really been able to accelerate that since 2016. But also during that same time period, we've designed and constructed many new schools. So that's really where it's become most exciting and impactful, when we're able to reimagine how to incorporate these important physical safety and security elements into our design, balancing that need for a welcoming and open and inclusive environment, but still a very reliable hardening of our schools, coming up with unique solutions there from a design perspective, and of course incorporating that input from our users. And so since then, in addition to advancements in technology relative to CCSD, and kind of the penetration across even into our elementary schools, not just our secondary schools, improved single point of entry vestibules, utilization of tools such as literal bullet resistant glazing in select locations, and the design and implementation of our general use restroom designs across our elementary, middle, and high schools and Washoe County School District. So it's really been a lot about the feedback from those users that's helped those evolve and then accelerate the modernization or implementation of those solutions into our existing schools. So part and parcel with that, as you heard earlier, also is technology is a big part of how we're trying to continuously improve the safety and security in our schools. Those single point entry vestibules create a welcoming, secure environment for us to have an adult interaction with anybody that's coming and going from our schools. Really important, fundamental. We're able to enhance that through the use of a simple background visitor management system. It's a brand name known as Raptor, but rather than just the Scouts Honor sign-in sheet of the past, we're actually able to scan driver's license or IDs and run a simple background check and have just a reliable digital record of who's coming and going from our schools. So stuff like that is in every one of our schools today. Similar advancements in technology, leveraging towards communication. So we've got, internet-based telephones, PA systems in every one of our classrooms, basic stuff like that, antiquated walkie-talkies. But today we now have significant investments, the same emergency grade radio that our chief of police carries on his hip all day, every day is in the hands of every one of our school principals and administrators across all of our school sites. A really powerful tool there. We've also, of course, got modern walkie-talkies for day-to-day skin, knees, and spilt milk. But one of the more exciting advancements that we've been able to take advantage of in the last couple of years has been this platform that was referenced earlier, brand name known as Centegix. It literally puts a crisis alert badge on the lanyard of every school district employee, allows them to signal for assistance from anywhere they might be on any campus at the school district. That immediately alerts the administrative team and select individuals where they can respond appropriately. This has been extremely widely utilized, I think, is a measure of success. It's easy to use. People are familiar and comfortable with using it. And while it has initiated a couple of expedited lockdown conditions, which seconds matter in those types of extreme circumstances, fortunately nothing severe has come of those. But more often or not, it's that verbal altercation that could escalate into a fight if for not having several other adults in that vicinity in a shorter period of time. Or it's just a severe, Johnny fell off the monkey bars and I can't leave his side. So I can call for adult assistance from my person with the touch of a button. That's been a unique and valuable addition just within the last couple of years I wanted to share. So that's really the highlight. Just again, focusing on the brick and mortar aspect of what we do in Washington County School District. I want to just close, although there's many other elements, it's really about that trusted adult relationship between the parent or the child and the adults in our building. And it's the adults generally who operate these systems. We can build the most successful buildings and tools, but if people don't utilize them and embrace them, they're not nearly as effective as possible. So we're always trying to find that balance and continuously improve in partnership with the people that live and work in our buildings. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Searcy. And now we have just one more, right? Oh, good. Someone's on Zoom. We're gonna stay here in person, and then we'll go to our Zoom presentation. So please go right ahead when you are ready. Elko on the screen.
Hello. For the record, my name's Clayton or CJ Anderson. I'm the superintendent of the Elko County School District. I've been there for about 3.5 years now, or doing that job more or less, and I appreciate you, Chair Taylor, and the rest of the committee for inviting me across the northern part of our state to come visit with you today about our school safety measures. I guess, I could summarize by saying me too on a lot of these things. I guess that's what I get for being out of the room when it probably should have been my turn first, but I will try to highlight maybe some differences and where we are compared to other school districts. So the image that you see there is like a little clip of our strategic plan, and you'll see that fourth, what we call pillar of our strategic plan, is student and staff wellness, and wrapped within that is health and safety. And it is a quote from our strategic plan is the individual and collective health and wellness of everyone is essential to our success, and we believe that. And just going to go to this slide next. I've quoted myself in this slide, and this is something I say often to members of our community, and that is that if something exists within the community around the school, it exists within the school. Sometimes people are shocked, even as recently as this week when we had something with drugs related in our school. It was like, well, how could this have happened? I try to be very measured when I answer that, but the answer is because you as a community have drugs in your community, and that's like it. We don't pass them out like Skittles for positive behavior initiatives at school. We don't pass fentanyl out. We don't distribute guns as conflict resolution. We don't teach fighting in our PE classes as physical education. Like, those are things that happen in our communities, and so yeah, they come to our schools. And we can't just metaphorically bury our heads in the sand. And just side note, ostriches don't bury their heads in the sand. That is a myth that has been around for thousands of years. However, for the sake of communication, we all know what it means. So there's an image of something that never actually happens. As far as physical security measures, I want to give you a snapshot of what we do in Elko County, or where we are at right now. So I have the benefit and sometimes the burden of having come to Nevada about 5.5 to 6 years ago, and prior to that I was in a very large school district, not Clark County large, but a large school district in the northwest section of Houston, Texas. And so I've had the wonderful privilege of being in schools with all of the bells and whistles and things that I took to be that's just what was in schools. And so to come to rural Nevada and see the juxtaposition of what I experienced in Houston as opposed to what I see in our schools was startling. And I don't say that as, it just is what it is. I'm not speaking judgmentally about that. But so where we are in Elko County right now is we are in progress of getting something so basic as surveillance cameras inside our schools, outside our schools. We have them in about 90% of our buses right now, and then only in very specific classrooms where there are high needs students who are likely to engage in violence, and we need to have some record of that. Like, those are the only rooms we can afford to have that type of measure in place. As far as a secure perimeter around our schools go, it's very inconsistent. We have some that it's great, it's exactly what you'd expect. Others, it's like, well, they clearly transitioned this with a chain link fence around, and others were just built with, as my colleague mentioned, with, the newer the school, the more likely it is that you're going to have some of these things put in. But in our school district, I don't think I'm far off by saying our schools average on age about 50 to 60 years old. So the vast majority are not going to have any of those things built in them, rather adapted when possible. So that's in progress, but inconsistent. Our intercom and communication system also in progress. We would love to have secure digital single point entries. We have very few of those, only in our newest schools. I personally believe that physical keys to the exterior of our buildings is a problem. It is very expensive to rekey an entire district, and if you have an administrator or somehow a key gets out there, you have to make the hard decision. Is this a $20,000 bill that we're going to have to eat, or do we have to worry about the safety of our buildings and the security of them? So it's a problem, something that RFID badges could solve. However, it's estimated that a single door at any campus with that type of capacity is roughly $10,000 to $15,000 to get that measure put in for every door you do. So it's a lot. It's a lot of doors. And you wouldn't, even not doing it to all doors, it's still a lot of doors. We also benefit from Centegix. It is our second year having that in place. I put a little picture there so you know what that badge looks like. That little emblem at the bottom is a button you push, and it differentiates between hey, we got someone hurt, injury, and might be something pretty serious happening. Something that Centegix badge does allow our staff to do is initiate a full lockdown that communicates to police outside of out in the community if they believe that some sort of serious incident is occurring. We had something as recently as a few weeks ago, which was seen on social media. Unfortunately, someone mistook the sound of something else for gunshots on campus, and thankfully it wasn't gunshots, but everything worked just as it should, and we were able to lock the school down, and we handled the thing that was mistaken for gunshots. It was a staff error, but anyway, the system worked, and we were grateful to have it in place. However, I do want to point out that the only reason we're able to do any of these things on the screen right now is because our local partner, Nevada Gold Mines, was willing to donate $1 million to us. We were the recipients of 2 years of consecutive $500,000 grants from the COPS federal grant. We've also been the recipient of the BISCA federal grant, and we've infused some of our own funds that we can out of our Buildings and Sites Fund. So we've been getting after some of these things for the last two years or so, but it's just scratching the surface right now. So I want to highlight that, there's some equity problems, and I've sort of said that already. You can see like one of those vestibules is very beautiful and exactly what it should be, and then we have some schools that it's just walk right on in, and and that's the infrastructure. Some schools have cameras, some don't. I won't belabor that point anymore. Things that we don't have in place, and it's hard to imagine when they'll happen, is radio security alarms. Our buildings aren't alarmed. Somebody could enter it at night, go hide in a room, and just be there when people come in the morning, and that's a problem. We don't have screening or badging systems. We don't have automatic interior gates that could cordon off a section of the building if there were an intruder. All these things that I'm mentioning are pretty standard in schools around our country. Not everywhere, obviously, but I've experienced it. Weapons detection systems, bullet attack resistant glass, you can see. And it's all a question of funding, in my opinion. As far as emergency preparedness and community partnerships go, I'm not going to read everything on here, but these are all things we do from a preventative nature. There's mandatory trainings. We have emergency communication system. We have a pretty good partnership with our local law enforcement emergency planning committees in our community. But we have, so all of these things are meant to be preventative and coincide with our emergency operations plan. We have a District 1, and every campus adapts that District 1 to meet the specific needs of their campus. So that's something that happens every year at the beginning of the year, and then it's a continued conversation throughout the year, especially as a debrief to a scenario that may have occurred. We love our SROs. We have 7 of them, and they're great. And I'll show a slide of them, but not, spend too much time on that. But the problem is we have 7 for 20-plus school buildings, and we are spread out over 17,000-plus square miles. It's roughly an hour and 45 minutes to get to 3 of our different communities. And so if something major happens in Owyhee, it's get someone there as fast as we can. And likewise for Wendover, and likewise for Jackpot, and then others still 45 minutes, half hour away. So it's, they can't be, 7 people can't be in 20-plus buildings. We're not too far away from the recommendation. However, that recommendation assumes probably things that don't include our geographic situation. We love our SROs, though. They're incredible. If you want to know their names, I'll tell you their names later. I love all of them. All 7 of them are great. We also have a great need for increased mental health and counseling supports. You can see the ratios there. We're closer on the counselors, but we are not even close on social workers and school psychologists. It's, 3, 4, 6 times away from what we should be on those. And part of that is funding, but part of it is also the lack of available people who are even qualified to do that. We're very proud of the initiation of Hope Squad, which is a peer-to-peer suicide prevention where kids are empowered to know how to recognize the signs and issues that surround suicide among their peers. I have definitely just hit my 10 minutes, so there's a few more slides on there, but you have them in front of you. Or I can keep talking if you want me to.
Go for it. We'll give you 2 minutes to finish up.
All right.
Mr. Superintendent.
Safe Voice is problematic. I appreciate what Safe Voice does, and I used the same system when I was in Texas, but there are definitely positives and negatives associated with the system. I think the lack of accountability for misuse is a problem, and I know tongue-in-cheek it said, well, you can, if it's misused and you can prove it, but like, we've gone down that route before, and it's very, very, I'm not going to say impossible, but difficult to have accountability for people who make clear abuse of the system, and I think that's frustrating and problematic. We have behavior threat assessment teams at every campus, and all of our personnel that are listed in that bottom bullet point category are trained in how to do threat assessments, and that's important for us. Lengthy list of efforts we go into from a stance of cybersecurity. Yeah, we're still adapting to that and getting along. One thing I will point out is, and I know this isn't necessarily under your purview, but E-rate is essential for us, and so any sort of, I know there's been talks about that potentially disappearing at the federal level, but any advocacy that could be done to have our rural schools be able to maintain E-rate, I don't know how we'd update anything from a technology standpoint as far as our system and our network go without E-rate. And those are some some recommendations. I will point out that in addition to being the superintendent, I also chair the governor's appointed committee on the Committee on Statewide School Safety. I don't even think I said that right, but whatever it's called, I chair it. We make several recommendations ranging from physical safety to AI to vapes to cell phones to threat assessments, et cetera. And so that report has been submitted. It was submitted last November, I think, or December. And I stand behind and endorse all of those recommendations, as well as what NAS has communicated as investment priorities. And very importantly, as always, no unfunded mandates. These things that we've talked about are important, but we can't do it without the appropriate funding to follow it up. So we care very much and deeply about school safety, but we're going to need some help if we're going to get where we need to be, commensurate with the rest of the country. So thank you for the extra 2 minutes and 50 seconds.
You're welcome, Superintendent Anderson. Thank you so much. And one more presentation, committee, and then we can ask questions. So I hope you're keeping track. I have a little list here myself. Mr. Klein, right there on Zoom, right on time from Lander County. Please go ahead, sir, when you're ready.
Okay. I appreciate the. Oh, I'm sorry. Is it working?
Yes, we can hear you. We can't see the presentation, but we
Okay.
can hear you.
All right.
But we do have it here in front of us, so don't let that stop you. Okay, now we see it.
Okay. Very good. I apologize. Let me make sure I'm choosing the right screen.
Well, now we see you, Superintendent Klein. I mean, that's lovely, but I think we're trying to get to the slides.
Oh, and that's the wrong one.
No, we're here. That's what we have.
All right. It's not in the full screen, so I apologize, but it'll be good enough.
We have it in front of us as well, so please go ahead, sir.
Okay. Oh, number one, I wanted to just join the others and thank the committee. I know a number of you and know how committed you are to our students and everyone that we serve. And I just appreciate the fact that you've brought us here to ask the questions and give us an opportunity to share what we're doing. I will just go through briefly because everything has pretty much been said. Lander County, we have 1,000 students. It's one elementary, one junior high, and one high school. So we're a very simple system. Lyon and Elko are both 10,000. And so they're about 10 times as big as us. And Washoe and Clark are obviously much bigger than them. But so I give you kind of a glimpse into what the smaller districts would be. We have single point entries in all of our schools. We've, for the high schools where we have multiple buildings, we have secured campuses. And keys and locks, we have gone with all of our door locks to where you can just push the button and pull the door closed. If a teacher has to be able to get their keys out and fiddle with their keys in order to lock the door, it's just going to take too long. So to give you an example of how big of a deal that is, we had a brand new elementary that was only 4 years old, and I spent $80,000 to rekey the entire building just to get that one feature where the teacher could push the button and pull the door closed. We now are going one step further, and again, to share kind of the magnitude of the cost, but to go with an electronic key card access district-wide, and that's gonna cost us $1.5 million. And again, we're a small, simple system. We have lock boxes on the outside of each of our buildings, so If there was something happening inside, the sheriff's office, law enforcement all have access to these lock boxes, which then they have the code to open the lockbox, which then gives them a key to get into the building. So, and we have it on every side of the building. So if you had someone on the back of the building, you'd need to be able to, and you could, and that's where the lockbox was, you wouldn't be able to get to it. So we've done that on all of our buildings. We've done GIS mapping of our facilities. We have the bullet resistant windows. Collaboration with law enforcement. We have with our cameras and security, we do, and I'll cover this in a minute, we do have we have cameras throughout, but we have actually given rights to the sheriff's office that if they needed to, if an event happened, they could log in and have rights to our cameras right from the sheriff's office. And so then they become command central on the spot. Safety training, we have to be careful in requiring this or doing it or how we do it. Many times, even practicing traumatic things has an effect on staff. And so we have to be very careful in how we do that. As I mentioned, cameras, we do have them in every classroom. We have them in all the hallways. We have them in all the exteriors and in the buses. We've been moving to make sure we have the right cameras in the right places. Sometimes, for example, you find out that you needed a wide lens or a zoom camera on this because it was out on the field and you can't really see what it is. The thing about cameras though is we spent $80,000 last year. We're spending another $93,000 this year. And literally every year, some of your cameras are aging out and some of them are breaking or not malfunctioning. And so the maintenance just to keep the camera system up and running is a lot. Lighting, interior and exterior, motion censored. We really believe that lighting is one of the best deterrents. And so we've added a lot of lighting to the outside of our buildings. As you're aware, and I'm not saying anything you guys don't already know, it costs money to do this. I just want to cover briefly emotional safety. And I'll just go through, we've had staff absences literally because when something happens nationwide, every educator sees it and they feel stressed. So we have educators who simply self-select a mental health day. They just can't come in today. But substitutes are practically non-existent. The baby boom generation is retired. The next generation is inexperienced. It's just something that we're continually working on there as well. So I'm going to leave it at that. I think that's enough to share, and I'll leave it to the committee for any questions.
Thank you so much, Superintendent Klein. Gentlemen who are here, I'll ask you to please come back so that we can ask questions and direct them as necessary. And I'll look to the committee to see who would like to start. And we'll start with Senator Titus.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you all for being here today, and I appreciate what you're doing for Nevada students. A couple questions, really. The resource officers, and I know Superintendent Tim and Logan mentioned that in Lyon County, and you mentioned about costs. So does the school district reimburse the sheriff's department for those resource officers? And then I wonder if it's the same in each county.
This is Tim Logan. I can speak for Lyon County. we pull the funds out of our general funds, so it's not a grant or anything of that nature. We do pay and reimburse the sheriff's office. So the sheriff is the employer of our SROs, and we enter an MOU with them so that we're allowed to, with FERPA, share student records. But they are an employee of Lyon County Sheriff's Office, and we pay them reimbursement based on their hours and stuff.
So they remain a deputy, so full law enforcement capabilities when they're on campus, but for their hours that they're there, you reimburse the Lyon County Sheriff's Office.
Correct. And Yerington Police Department's the other one, but yes.
Okay, thank you. And because I think from what I've heard in all the counties that I represent, 6 of them, that they're huge in the school to have those officers there. And I'm sorry that you only have 7 in Elko County and 20 schools. Lyon County's spread out also, but it seems like we have most of our schools. Do you know, Superintendent Logan, and do we have a resource officer in each one of our schools?
We have 5, so each of our communities have access to it, and our schools largely are close. Smith Valley being the one that's unique,
Yes.
And probably only sees that resource officer once a week. But and you guys, Elko, is it a sheriff?
Clayton Anderson for the record. We have a collaboration with both the City of Elko PD and the Elko County Sheriff's Office. So 4 of our deputies, or one's a sergeant, the other 3 are deputies from the Sheriff's Office, and then the other 3 are corporal and officers from the Elko City PD. The 3 Elko City folks or officers primarily spend their time at the schools within the city of Elko, and then the 4 sheriff's deputies are mostly responsible for everything else, all of Spring Creek and out to Wendover, Wells, Jackpot, and then Owyhee's problematic in that we only have so much jurisdiction to do anything, and so, yeah.
Oh, if I follow up on that question, so in Washoe County, I'm curious about how you handle situations out at Gerlach and in rural areas.
Gerlach's, Adam Searcy for the record. Gerlach's certainly unique. We partner primarily with the Washoe County Sheriff's Office, who provides service up there to Gerlach, similar with our remote schools in Incline Village. But then in the Truckee Meadows, Reno Sparks, Washoe County proper, we employ our own in-house police department with sworn law enforcement officers assigned to all of our schools.
So is that, follow up on that one, so is that unique then in Washoe County, you have your own sworn, and Clark does too, but you're the 2 counties that have your own sworn police. Do all the other counties then have resource officers?
This is Tim Logan from Lyon County. I would be pretty confident speaking that all the rural counties don't have their own police department, so we all contract out essentially and have that joint MOU.
Great.
Yeah. One more follow-up, Clayton Anderson for the record. I just want to clarify one question that I'm not sure if it was clearly or answered before, is that the 7 police officers that we contract with the 2 departments to employ, that they work full-time at our schools. It's not like we're reimbursing certain hours when they are with us. We have all 7 of them all day, every day, and then also their overtime. So on a rare occasion, if something major is happening, and let's say there was a shooting or something going on in the community, they would potentially be dispatched to go help with that, but they spend all day in our schools. So it's not like we're using them on a as-needed basis. They're always at our schools.
I heard something different in Lyon County though?
Lyon County's the same. Sorry, this is Tim Logan. So they are our school resource officers. We pay them. They are full-time with us. They're just, we don't pay that bill. Well, we do, but it's through the sheriff's office. The sheriff's office, the only thing that they do pay is to arm them and the school police cars and those things. So that's their money in.
You're very welcome. Thank you, Senator. Other questions? I think you had a comment you want to make, Senator Cruz Crawford?
Go ahead, you first.
Vice Chair, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
It's okay. I just wanted some clarification, and maybe Ms. Sturm can correct me if I'm wrong. I don't believe that cameras in special ed classrooms is law. I do not believe that we passed that.
I'll jump in on that. I was going to mention it when I got to my questions. It is not a law for the in the 2019 and the 2023 session. There were bills in both sessions, and neither time did the bill become law. So that is not required, although we know most districts still do that, but it's certainly not required in those special ed classrooms.
This is Tim Logan. Thank you for correcting me. I'm the one that said it wrong, so thank you.
That's okay. We're glad you have
You
them.
have it, so.
We're glad you have them. Senator Cruz Crawford?
Thank you, Chair. I know when you said that, I was like, oh no, I'm not in compliance. Sorry, so I started tuning in. Okay, so I just wanted to share. Today I was very excited about hearing about the safety measures, our infrastructure, and our procedures. And I have to say that I really would have liked to see some more structured reporting out of metrics. In regard to reporting to the Education Committee, we meet for 120 days every other year. And this was a great time to work together across the districts to highlight your metrics of what you're currently doing and what your ask is and what your need. And what I saw is I saw a lot of incongruency. Some people came well prepared. Some districts felt like a stream of consciousness. I had a hard time understanding what the needs were so that I can support you as your senator. So I would like, next time you have the opportunity to share, to have some very strategic reporting on what you're doing holistically across the board, what your needs are and what your wants are, and that will help me better be able to support your districts, because I came away a little confused about where we are and where we're going. So thank you.
Well, I'll address that, Senator. They weren't asked to bring metrics or anything, so they were really asked to just talk about their safety that they have in their school. We kind of call it the safety day, if you will, but they weren't asked for that. But if you'd like some metrics, certainly we'd like for you to share the metrics you have, if you will, with the secretary for the committee, and then she'll make sure and get those out, and we'll share that way. So yeah, that wasn't their ask. So. Okay, you're welcome. So I'm sorry we didn't get you what you wanted, but we'll get it now. We'll get it now. I have a couple of questions myself, and then I'll go to Senator Rogich. A couple of questions. Let's see. We'll start at Superintendent Logan. How many? You said the parents can pay for BARC. How much do they pay?
I couldn't answer that, to be honest with you. I think it's minimal, but I honestly couldn't answer that.
Okay. Would you mind sharing that information as well? Thank you. I was just interested in that. And also, you didn't mention if you have cameras on buses. Give us your name.
Sorry, this is Tim Logan, Lyon County School District, and we do have cameras on all our buses. I will say they never work when you actually need them, but we do have them on all our buses.
So write that down, Senator Cruz Crawford. They need better cameras. Okay, no, thank you. Okay, fantastic. Lisa, I had just a couple more questions. Let's see, Superintendent Anderson, you talked about misuse of Safe Voice. Can you give us an example? What's that look like?
Clayton Anderson for the record. So what that could look like is what the kids, I hate to say this, but the kids say to each other, almost like as a joke, I'm gonna safe voice you. So it gets misused where, you jumped ahead of me in line at lunch, so I'm gonna submit a safe voice that you have a vape or something, and then what that does is it pulls an administrator, at least one administrator, away to investigate this claim, and so you'll have people that essentially are getting harassed or bullied via safe voice. You have staff members that maybe aren't the most popular with students because perhaps they grade in a difficult manner, or they're just not, their personality-wise, not a kid's favorite teacher, and so kids will submit verifiably false claims about adults and mess with their career and their credibility as a teacher on campus. And we are obligated to do a couple of things when it comes to Safe Voice. We are obligated to investigate every submission, and we are also obligated to never mention that that this came from Safe Voice. It is supposed to be completely anonymous, and I do get, and I have been on the tail end of, wow, that was a really good tip that we got that possibly saved someone's life, right? Like and I know that's the trade-off for all the, pardon my language, crap that we have to deal with Safe Voice, but it's a pretty tough trade-off sometimes. I've had a couple of staff members that I think have kind of self-selected for early retirement or shifting districts because of how they feel like they've been singled out due to safe voicing. Like it's become a verb in our language, as you say. I just used it naturally as a verb. So kids do that. Parents do that. I believe, and I have no way of proving it, but I believe there is someone at one of our schools who is essentially harassing our principal because they don't like the principal, and so they submit false claims about what a principal is and is not doing. And so because we're obligated to talk to that principal about every claim, even though we say, hey, you know what it is, you know we just have to do this, it doesn't matter. That wears on a person that, man, I am being publicly shamed, I am being called out, I have my district directors and my superintendent on a weekly to sometimes more frequently than that basis coming to me to verify I'm doing my job the right way. People just like, they don't trust me, I'm not valued here. It's a real problem.
I appreciate that, Superintendent.
Just a couple of examples.
Okay, no, I asked you for those, so thank you very much. We're going to go to Senator Rogich, and then we'll go to Vice Chair Dundee Loop. Oh, Buck has a question? Okay, so we'll follow up with you, Senator Buck. Senator Rogich, go ahead.
Thank you, Chairwoman. With regard to the cameras in the classroom, it was stated that in the SPED classrooms there are cameras under law. Is that something that you have installed currently?
This is Tim Logan from Lyon County School District. So I stand correct that it is not a law. However, in Lyon County, we do have it in all our special education classes, and it is currently running 24/7, and we have access probably up to, if I were to guess, about a month that we could go back.
Thank you. And just a follow-up. If it's not the law, why did you install it?
I can say that it was a whole lot of conversation around it being a law at one point, and for us, there is value in, again, not a lot of nonverbal students. We want to be transparent and all that with our parents, so it just allows for quick, easy investigations for a false accusation of a bruise that's on an arm that a student can't speak for themselves about, so it allows us to go in there and verify whether or not that occurred. If I were to put cameras, if I was another district and didn't have cameras in classroom, that's the place I would start for sure.
Thank you. I agree. They should be in the classrooms.
Yep.
Thank you, Senator Rogich. Senator Buck?
Thank you so much, Chair Taylor. I was very encouraged by how proactive you all are. I was wondering if there is a forum in which you all share. Is it through your superintendent's relationship? But where do you share best practices so you can learn from one another?
Clayton Anderson for the record. We have a monthly meeting with each other. I would say that a lot of our sharing is done informally when someone has a question, but we don't have like a standing item on our agenda every month of what are you doing from safety perspective. But we do very regularly through text or through email say, hey, how is everyone handling X thing? How are you funding it? So we kind of informally do that with one another.
You good, Senator Buck? Okay, I just have one more question. This is for Superintendent Klein. And first of all, and let me say this: I know you aren't feeling well, so thank you for doing whatever was necessary to at least get on Zoom. So we really do appreciate that. I just want one question. You talked about the key that law enforcement has access to, right, from the lock boxes. I wonder, does that key fit the classrooms, or does it get them inside the building?
Russ Klein for the record. It gets them into the building.
Okay.
Well, and actually it's the master administrative key for that building. So it would get them anywhere in that building.
Okay, thank you. I just remember one of the situations we had when the shooter was in the classroom, and they took them a while to get to him. So thank you for that. I appreciate that, Superintendent.
Yeah.
Any other questions for our superintendents who are here? Well, gentlemen, thank you so much. And our COO, thank you for being here. We appreciate you taking the time and sharing what you're doing from a safety standpoint. It's really important. Superintendent Klein, thank you so much. Now go back to bed.
Thank you. I appreciate your consideration.
Well, that closes the hearing then on this really important issue in terms of safety. And we appreciate if you would get that information to the secretary, the committee secretary, and we can share that amongst everyone. And so now we're down to the last item on our agenda. It is public comment. So if you would like to make public comment here in Carson City or in Las Vegas, please come forward if you'd like to make public comment. We'll start here in Carson City. And again, you will have an opportunity to call in. You have the opportunity to call in. Again, that number is 475-4499, and the meeting ID is 892-2996-0827. So please call in if you'd like to have public comment. You have 2 minutes if you want to make that comment. We appreciate it. And we'll start right here. Please go ahead, sir.
John Eppolito. You can find 1,500 of us and our public comments this session on Facebook at Protect Nevada Children. Class Dojo is a free behavior modification software. On their homepage, it states, quote, loved by more than 45 million students and parents, free for teachers forever, end quote. Their site also states over 154,000 families in Nevada rely on Class Dojo, end quote. Yes, Class Dojo is free for teachers and schools, and they are paid with students' most sensitive behavior data. New York Times article, the title of the article, Privacy Concerns with Class Dojo and Other Tracking Apps for School Children. From the article, quote, a software engineer in Los Altos, California asked a teacher to remove his son's information from Class Dojo. He said he was concerned that it might later be aggregated and analyzed in unforeseen ways, end quote. A mother in Reno, North Valleys, contacted me about her school's use of Class Dojo because she didn't want her child's sensitive behavior data stored by Class Dojo and their partners. She was told that the school's official method, that's the school's official method of communication. She was talking about removing her child from school. I don't know what she did. London School of Economics article titled, Class Dojo poses data collection concerns for parents. National Review article titled, Stop Mental Health Data Mining of Our Kids. From the article, quote, Class Dojo collects intimate behavior data and long-term psychological profiles. I don't know if Class Dojo is creating psychological profiles on Nevada students, but neither did the school district officials. A year before Edmodo was sold to the Chinese, they had a massive data breach affecting most students using the software.
Mr. Eppolito, I'm so sorry. Your time is up, sir. So if you wouldn't mind
Is this
sending
the
those
future
Mr.
for
Eppolito,
Class
your time is
Dojo?
up. Your
John
time is up, sir.
Eppolito, protectnevadachildren.org.
Your time is up. I want to keep giving you public comment, but you're going to have to follow the rules. Anybody else here in Carson City? Public comment? Okay, seeing none, we have a couple of people in Las Vegas, so please go right ahead, state your name and spell it for the record if you would, and you have 2 minutes.
Doug Unger, D-O-U-G-U-N-G-E-R, Nevada Faculty Alliance. Thank you, Chairs Taylor, Nodero Loop, and members of the committee for scheduling these presentations on the safety of both our higher education system and K-12 schools. The issue is a most urgent one, and we appreciate the concerns of this committee. Regarding the Chancellor's Ad Hoc Committee on Safety and Security, on which I served for more than a year following the December 6, 2023 mass shooting on the UNLV campus that murdered 3 of our faculty, 2 of whom I knew personally. 6 of 15 recommendations approved by the Board of Regents and shared to you by Chief James came from the subcommittee I chaired. In addition to the 6 kinds of training and education improvements, there are a lot of infrastructure improvements that our committee suggested, some of which have been shared with you. We talked about the doors. UNLV desperately needs classroom doors that lock from the inside. But there's one infrastructure improvement that was left out, and I'd like to raise your attention to it, and that is increased numbers of campus police officers and support staff, which are desperately needed for when an incident happens that we do not abandon CSN and NSU and leave them undersecured. I'd like to add that though, with all due respect to the Chancellor, and I do respect her and really admire her leadership, to say that safety is a priority 15 months later does not feel like a priority to us at UNLV. We really need some urgency on this campus safety issue. We feel it viscerally every single day we walk our campus. There's a great deal of disparity, north and south. The north is better prepared than the south. But please, please make a commitment to make it our priority to do everything possible to make our students safe from gun violence. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We appreciate you coming to make some public comment. There's someone else there, please. Ma'am, go right ahead. State your name. Yes, I see you. I see. I'm calling on you now. Turn the microphone on and then state your name for the record. You have 2 minutes, ma'am.
Thank you. My name is Dr. Deborah Arteaga. That's DeBoraHARTEAGA. I'm chair of the UNLV Faculty Senate and professor of linguistics. The morning of December 6, 2023, I was teaching a beginning Spanish class reviewing for our final. Most of my students were freshmen, 18 or 19. In the middle of class, even though it wasn't allowed, my students started reading their text messages. These said there was an active shooter. We were to run, hide, or fight. I decided that we needed to hide. We did not have a panic button or emergency phone. We could not lock the classroom from the inside. I turned off the lights and we sat waiting. I went from table to table, making sure they were all right. Some wanted hugs and several were crying. These were children. They had never even considered their parents' death, let alone their own. Students were texting their family and friends. We sat in the room for 4 hours before we were escorted out. My students are not okay after that experience. I still keep in touch with them. As the day went on, my own department, World Languages and Cultures, had colleagues check in. No one had heard from Japanese professor Dr. Naoko Takemaru, a dear friend and colleague. As it turned out, she had been murdered when she left her office because she heard a fire alarm. I'm telling you this story to beg you to allot us as much money as possible for security. $11 million among 8 institutions will not make us safer. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Doctor. We appreciate your being here. Is there anyone else in Las Vegas who would like to make public comment? Okay, seeing none, we will go to the phones. BPS, is there anyone on the phone who called in and would like to make public comment?
If you wish to provide public comment, please press star 9 to enter the queue.
Hi there. Everyone can hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Okay, awesome. My name is Elizabeth Cloudman. I'm a parent with 2 children in CCSD, and I really appreciate the public platform for us to listen in on safety measures. I just wanted to say a couple things that were missing for me as a parent perspective from this meeting was some policy around transparency with the parents from administration when a lockdown situation happens, as well as some policy around lockdown radius. My daughter attended Schirkenbach Elementary and CCSD, and they share a campus with Bilbray. And we had a situation where there was a hard lockdown on Bilbray's campus. Those 2 campuses share the same property. They're only separated by a chain link fence. We received a hard lockdown alert from Schirkenbach Elementary because of a situation on Bilbray. And then we're subsequently told that the hard lockdown alert was a mistake. Some of us had children on the campus with cell phones to let us know that were texting us that the children were going through that as a hard lockdown situation. And we're very confused with our ability to participate, monitor, and be informed on what was going on because we were subsequently told it was a mistake by a staff member. Later that evening, we were informed by the public news that it was indeed a hard lockdown. And when some of the parents tried to email the administration to get clarification on why there was a lack of transparency about what was going on, we were shrugged off. We tried to reach out to the district for some help with that situation, and we didn't get anywhere with that either. So I just wanted to comment that maybe considering some policy around what the parents are entitled to know, how we're entitled to participate in the safety of our children, as well as considering a radius for lockdown, which I was surprised to learn wasn't as far as the radius as it is in some other states that we've lived in. So that was it. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your comments. We appreciate that. Seeing no other comments, we will adjourn the meeting and we will gather again on Wednesday right here at 1 p.m. Thank you so much, everybody.